Since my last snarky video about DaVinci Resolve on Linux, I have some news. The dumb issues involving AV import and output codec limitations, the dumb CentOS Rocky Linux exclusiveness for support, and the recommendations to have a beefy NVIDIA card, they're all still the same. But I did find workarounds for some of the UI issues and OBS footage import issues that I snarked. I snarked about needing to use the super key and left dragging to get Resolve out of like full screen windowed mode, and thereafter still needing to use the super key to drag the window around. This was totally unbearable with a single monitor. So I did some research. To resolve this and most of the other window management bitching I did in the last video, I used a KDE window rule, and a link will be available in the description to this window rule. That stupid window rule tells the main Resolve window to ignore requests from the application to resize the window entirely. It also forces the application to have a title bar and a frame, which allows it to be dragged and resized like any other normal ass application. For some reason, it still opens in full screen window mode, but once it's started with this rule in place, you can resize it to your heart's content. Once it's resized, it just behaves like any other application. I'm not sure how to get the same effect on non-KDE systems. I don't exactly know how the window rules work. I'm also using X and not Wayland, and I'm not sure if window rules work on Wayland in KDE. No idea. I also bitched about the Resolve UI being totally unreadable at 4K without switching its text scaling, and about not being able to use the Resolve UI at 1080p due to unclickable UI elements. Here's some updates about that. So while using Resolve at 4K desktop resolution, I continually receive GPU full error messages while trying to do audio transcriptions. So I knew that I needed to free up some GPU RAM to let the task finish. And I knew that switching the desktop to 1080p would free up some GPU RAM. So every time I run out of GPU RAM, I switch from 4K to 1080p, and I get the thing done that I need to get done. That switching is what makes the UI, Resolve UI, become unusable. So I know, relax. I know I have to restart the application. I get it. All the other applications I use, if the application is open when you switch resolutions, it's expected that you have to restart the app, and if you don't, it'll act weird. Just normal. But restarting Resolve, in my environment anyway, didn't make the weirdness go away. Had some weirdness. You can see it. It's weird. But restarting X does make the weirdness go away. Once you restart X, it works fine in 1080p mode. So I said that it was unreadable at 4K resolution, and you have to go into Preferences, User, UI Settings, UI Text Scaling inside of Resolve to change it. This is not entirely true. You change out of 4K and into 1080p. Start Resolve, exit Resolve, switch back to 4K. The text will be scaled without messing with the Preferences, User, UI Settings, UI Text Scaling setting inside Resolve at all. You don't need to touch it. Yeah, I know. What am I supposed to tell you? Yes, just switch to 1080p once, and then start Resolve, and then get out of Resolve and switch back to 4K, and your OS will scale the I don't know either. I'm just telling you what I found. Okay, I don't know. That said, even at 4K, with both OS text scaling off and Resolve text scaling off, some UI elements in Resolve are unclickable. For example, trying to add a third custom keyboard shortcut in the keyboard customization options, when the existing keyboard shortcuts have long enough key names, is impossible, at least if you don't reorder them in some way. So I mentioned that I'm getting a lot of GPU full errors. I have a 4GB card, don't make fun of me. But I just watched CJ from Elevated Systems video about Resolve on the Framework 16 laptop, and that thing has an AMD 8GB card. He was doing this on Windows, and he was having similar issues running out of VRAM while doing even more pedestrian things than I'm doing. However, he also tried to do the same things in Adobe Premiere, and it handled them without issue. In the meantime, I've seen other folks indicate that older versions of Resolve ran out of GPU memory less often. So these two things make me think that Resolve 18 may either at the current moment be leaking VRAM, which is always possible, programming's hard, or maybe possibly the consumption is by design and they're just not all that concerned about users with less than 16 gigabytes of VRAM. I hope it's the former. That'd be great. I hope it gets fixed. Until we know, in the meantime, use NVTop, the NVTop command line utility, to see your current GPU memory usage, to see how much memory Resolve is consuming, and then to free up GPU memory when you see that it's using all of it. If your desktop environment is in 4K or better, switch back to 1080p temporarily. get out of Resolve, switch to 1080p, start Resolve again, try to do the task that causes the GPU full error, and see if it finishes. If you're transcoding on the same system while you're editing, instead of using hardware encoding, use software encoding so that it doesn't use any GPU resources, or transcode on another machine. In the last video, I mentioned that I had to transcode OBS source footage. This was a total lie. I found that OBS can encode to something directly importable by Resolve. Matroska H.264 PCM, you use its settings output advanced recording settings. So at this point, for me, anyway, I don't have to do any transcoding because mostly I import footage from OBS and I shit out Matroska plus MP4. In the last video, I mentioned that I couldn't record directly into Resolve using Fairlight. I temporarily fixed this by switching from Pipewire to Pulse Audio. And I didn't misspeak. I switched from Pipewire back to Pulse Audio. And I will put a link to an issue in the freedesktop.org GitLab that discusses this in the context of Resolve. Now, in the meantime, it stopped working. I couldn't make it work for this video. I'm talking into OBS like a savage. So who knows? I don't know. In my last video, I mercilessly made fun of the names for the microphone inputs, which were 8 times the word ALSA. So it's just ALSA, 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 ALSA. And I assumed that it was showing me 8 individual selections of potential input devices. I do have a number of potential input devices. I thought maybe just miscounted them or something. But that's not what it's doing at all. It's not enumerating any individual devices. You can choose any of them. They're all exactly the same. They just lead to the current ALSA device, the default one. Why there are 8 of them? Oh, I don't fucking know. I have no idea. Also. On a positive note, I was able to get Resolve set up in such a way that I can edit things from multiple workstations without copying anything around. I set up Postgres on one of my systems, and I set up an SMB server to hold my media, and all that works. That's pretty cool. And I have one new complaint. If you navigate to a media clip and right-click on it and then select, I think it's called Open in Folder, maybe it's called something else, but basically it's this thing that would, if it worked, would show you the file in a file manager. That doesn't work. Not a big deal, not a huge deal, but this is annoying. But yeah, anyway, that's my update. Thanks for listening.